For those who are watching on YouTube, I made a mistake and we don't have the complete video clips of everything. Otherwise, this podcast is available on SoundCloud and Spotify as well. I'm also actively encouraging feedback. Feel free to leave a comment or email me directly at shangwei@gmail.com. Enjoy the rest of the podcast.
What the hell?
Damn, that's surprising though, because like I don't know, many people that I've met, like they get into this grind or this like mentality, this hustle mentality, like after like they've done like their fair share of drugs.
Really?
Yeah, bro. That's what I've noticed. Like even for myself, like I could speak on that. Like I've noticed that like once people have like done like their fair share of drugs, like have these certain experiences, they're like, oh, I want to move away from that. I want something better for myself, and that's when they really get serious with the like grind, you know. And it's like you're a unique case. Like you already had that grind. You didn't need that like realization moment.
Not necessarily. This is a question of nature versus nurture.
Nature versus nurture. Like what do you mean?
Maybe.
So
I mean, like I feel like maybe like a lot of people have an experience that gets them into this mindset, and you, for example, in your case, it would be drugs.
Right.
Like I mean, I know people who have the same situation. Like they start out with drugs and stuff, and then they went on the grind.
Right.
So
right.
I do know people like that too. I feel like it's not the fact that it's drugs, but drugs are like one thing that may bring you into that.
It's just the experience.
Yeah.
The experience.
Like it's
right?
different experiences.
it's more like the experience of you getting into your lowest point.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Like,
I think that's what it is.
But that's not necessarily from drugs. That's just
drugs is one thing that
nurture.
could do it.
Yeah. But it's also
100%.
nature. I believe some people are naturally more ambitious than others.
That could happen. I mean, I also think your environment makes you like nurture as well.
Nurture. Yeah. It becomes a question like, are we born, like genetically speaking, are we born with this perception to become a greater self?
Yeah, I feel like maybe it's not like someone's like born ambitious, but they're maybe more easier to get into that mindset. Like they could tap into that easier.
Like for example, some people are more prone to addiction just by genetics.
Exactly.
Right?
But it's not like they're born addicted. It's just they're more prone to it. I feel like that's the case.
Could we not make the same argument about ambition?
Yeah, I do think so as well.
Right. So it just takes something that unlocks it. I figured out the key to unlock everything. Trauma. If you figure out your traumas, you figure out like everything.
I mean, yeah,
that's a good point.
That does make sense.
Yeah, that's how I like. That's why I'm so mature. Over the past 2 years, after I dropped it out, I constantly worked on my traumas. Right. Sometimes I'm sarcastic about it. So I'm like, when people say, "Why do you like the way?" I'm like, "Trauma, baby. That's what makes me so funny." Right. But it's true. It's fucked up, but it's true. And understanding my trauma, I understand why I work so hard.
I mean, yeah, like also like being able to like, make fun or like laugh about it, shows that you've pretty much passed it. Like you already understand it.
I think it's also like a confident thing. Like
that's 100%.
Well, you understand, like confident people understand they have trauma, and they constantly work on it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna punch my phone.
Now you deleting videos, right, Megan?
When you delete it, make sure you also delete it from recently
deleted.
Deleted.
Good point.
That's
what
I realized. I think I had the 10 gigs.
Yeah.
Things are like 20 gigs, 10 gigs, but they're not doing much to my general storage.
Also, go to your recently deleted then, right? That's probably it.
If you delete videos.
I just saved. Okay, beautiful. 51%. It's good. Do you guys know how to swim?
Decently enough, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, bro, I've been swimming since like 4 years old.
Yeah.
My dad's a big swimmer, so he was like, you know what you can do? Let me see. I don't know why I said it earlier, but I didn't even help you set it up. Why don't we just try that camera thing on your computer so you can download on your computer? So you record through your computer. I'm not sure if it works. So turn on like anything that has your camera on. I don't know, photo booth. I don't even remember what they got.
Hold on a second. Let's try this.
Try turn on like a camera app or something.
How to record.
Just turn on the camera app. You should be able to see it.
App?
Yeah, I mean, like, okay, so do command space.
Command space.
Okay, no, go back. Watch this. So command space, and now you can type in any app.
Oh, shit. That's cool.
So just type in camera. I don't know. Should be something. Some kind of camera app. I don't know.
No.
Okay, just Google how to record on. Yeah, you might need a separate app or something.
How to record iPhone and store.
No, just how to record because the iPhone's going to be like your camera. You get I'll show you that. Just how to record a video. How to record camera on computer, on MacBook rather. Just do that. Yeah, I feel like the grind thing, I think I've had it for a while. I mean, I definitely got it from my dad, But, like during high school, all of high school, I was just doing people's assignments and shit. No one wants to learn, so like everyone, I was just doing people's assignments, but also I was repairing a lot of things. Like I repaired phones and like computers and stuff. Yeah, I mean I still do it occasionally, not as much, but I do still repair stuff. Like what's it called? This one was funny. So I have 3 MacBooks at home, and I only bought one. So my dad works in construction, and he's like, so he's a little higher. Like he's not obviously the boss, but like he manages a lot of projects.
Yeah.
So he actually like deals with a lot of wealthy people, and a lot of them like go to him for anything related. Like if they want him to set up anything at home, they go to him because like he's really good at it. Yeah. So they also ask him like, oh, you know, like by any chance, can you repair my MacBook? Because like I dropped it, right? I broke the screen, blah blah blah. So my dad's like, yeah, sure. So he brings it home and then he just gives it to me. What? And at some point, so the screens, there was at some point because the screens were really expensive at the time. So we told him like, I'll be honest, like that screen is the price of a new computer. So like, do you guys just? And they're like, no, you could just keep it. I was like, shit, all right. So the thing is, the computer wasn't usable, right? But then I waited like 2 years, and now the screen's like $100. So I just replaced it recently, and I have a MacBook Pro now for free. I just had to replace the screen.
Right.
So there's that. So like, I always have. Yeah, exactly. Like I always have 2 MacBooks. Like I have one like really cracked out one, like really strong one for for home use and like programming and everything, and then the other one I have just like for in case I'm traveling. Like if I brought it here, I would bring it because I'm not bringing that like really crazy one.
Yeah. I got connected to my Mac. Like I need a physical one connected.
No, you don't. It's so the new update. They don't require you. You just need some sort of app that records your camera. That's all.
We'll leave it be. I mean, I just freed up 10 gigabytes, so it's more than enough.
I mean, if you want.
Yeah, just leave it be. I'll figure it out later.
Check if there's a photo booth. Oh, I think just check if there's a photo booth app, and I'll just show you what it means.
The photo booth?
Yeah.
You mean like just camera app?
There's no camera.
Yeah, there's no camera app. I forgot what it's called on.
QuickTime Player, perhaps.
No. That plays videos. Hold on. Let's do this and just type in. I don't even know if photo booth still exists, man. Oh, it does. Yeah. Wow. I mean, this is just to show you. You're not gonna record through this, but so you see, this is the actual camera from here, right? I don't know if your actually it does record. Wow. I'm not too sure if this operating system has it. That's why if we could do like camera.
It should be the newest one.
Yeah, but the thing is like different computers might have different Macs might have different operating systems. That's why. Is there anything else that pops up on the camera? No, nothing? All right, then whatever. Then we could probably just use your... I'll just show you like a video of it later, like after we're done, and then we could just record with this for now. Yeah, there's no point in looking for it. If it works, then we'll just do that. But I remember doing it... The easiest way to like do it is through Zoom. Because then, because you actually have like access.
But the quality of Zoom is not ideal.
No, I don't mean like record through Zoom. I just mean like... just to show you the feature.
Yeah.
Because you'd have to like take some time to set it up and stuff. Cause, like,
Could you set up the camera?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, zoom out if need.
But you have enough space, right?
Yeah.
Alright, I got you. Dang, I got static.
Yeah.
Alright.
See that. So what time you said you booked it, or it doesn't matter?
Well, it's just 2:00, but 3:00 I believe.
Are you chilling?
We should be good.
Cool and chilling.
Yeah, we got to 3:00.
Say that.
But I don't think they care. Unless they have to go home.
Or like if there's another one booked right after us.
I don't think there's another one booked. No one uses this from what
That's good.
No one at all?
Let's tuck it.
Like it's
really rare.
Like it's empty most of the time?
Yeah, that's why I've been talking to those people. Every time I come, I'm not kicking anybody out.
Right. Nah, that's pretty dope then.
Yeah. Hey, it's good at least we see the reflection of it still going. Alright, it's going, right? Yeah, it's going. Awesome.
Alright, cool. Testing, 1, 2.
Alright,
So sounding loud. Alright, so we should get started,
Do
right?
you guys have any specific topics you want to talk about?
I mean, I think we should talk about that, but we should talk about like what experience really like set you off on that path where like you want to like start grinding, you want to like do this whole self improvement, because I feel like it's different for everybody, and everybody could speak on their own unique experience.
Yeah, I like
yeah,
that.
and also
Right.
like that could also like if we have time, we could just segue that into like how we got into our industry
Yeah,
to
Okay.
like use our mindset into the industry.
Yeah.
exactly.
So we could do that.
Oh yeah, definitely. For me, it's the gym.
Yeah, that's like similar to question 3
Yeah, I don't
too.
even think about it, but that's actually a massive factor.
Yeah,
The gym.
Yeah,
that's
I
a
think
We need to
huge
talk
factor.
about that too.
Yeah,
The
100%.
gym. Yeah.
All right, yeah.
That's a fact.
So, all right, let's start. So, this podcast may contain subjects or topics that may be offensive or insensitive in nature. All subjects of coarse language and stories should be considered as banter, and therefore this podcast should not be listened to. If you hear something you don't like, feel free to turn this podcast off and go about your day. This is episode 4.
Episode 4.
Welcome to episode 4 of Shangway or No Way.
Shangway, no way.
I got some revolving guests,
Yes, sir.
Kevin and Patrick.
Yes, sir.
And today we're going to mostly talk about how we develop a hustling mindset, how we develop a mindset that propels us to constantly go through self-improvement or self-development in terms of how we're going to be the best of the best within whatever we do.
Right.
And to start, we're going to go around the room and just say how we got into our mindset. Is it genetic? Is it the environment, nature, nurture, your environment, or you're born with this? Perhaps you're in the situation that caused you to be in this pathway of success or development.
Right.
Right. So, Patrick, would you like to start?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, we briefly talked about this earlier about the
Yeah.
whole genetic thing. So I mean, I do believe that like there is some sort of gene that probably allows you to like tap into like get in the zone quicker. But I do think a majority of it is nurture though. Like I only feel like the nature is like the talent situation. Like we
Mhm.
talked about last
The talent
podcast.
versus
Yeah,
hard
the
work.
talent versus hard work. I feel like some people are just more prone to like getting like to be able to tap into like ambition really easier.
Right.
But in the end, I feel like nurture is really like where it shines because your environment is like pretty much
Who you are.
yeah, it's make or break
Yeah.
most of the
Right,
time.
right, right.
Like if you're just like you know the example, like if you're just hanging out with like 10 people who are like not doing anything to develop their life, you're probably gonna be the 11th. But same thing goes for the other way around. So where I started, so when I was really young, like I was 4 years old, I got signed up to Taekwondo, which you know a lot of people say like it's like a showmanship. I do think it's a lot of showing, but at the same time, like one thing I did get from it was discipline. Like oh my god, they couldn't be quiet about the discipline. Like discipline. Like everything. You had to follow the rules. You have to do things. Like there had to be a reason behind you doing things, right? Or even like fighting, like do your best to disengage a fight, even if you know how to fight. Like just disengage the fight. Only fight if you have to, right? Things like that. But like discipline was a huge thing. I mean, even like when I was doing the black belt test, we had a written test. The written test took longer than the actual test because we were given like a stack of 10 papers and we had to literally read everything and we had to answer like discipline, which is everything goes back to discipline. So that was pretty much ingrained in my mind. Discipline is so important, and I feel like martial arts is a beautiful way of getting into that. And that's where I started. Once I stopped going, I think I stopped at, I got my black belt and I was like, I'm good. That's just what I wanted. Low key, I do think I wish I went a little further because in Taekwondo, second degree black belt is an international black belt. I only got first degree, which is regional, so it's that area.
Okay.
But if I went for second degree, I would have had to get tested from like South Korean officials and stuff. I'm like, wow. Like if I only went that little extra, probably would have got it. But one thing I definitely got was discipline. So I feel like that is kind of like what that planted the seed.
Yeah.
It didn't really ignite until high school, but at the same so a few years after that, actually 1 year after I stopped going, my dad signed me up to a boot camp because when I was younger I used to just play games left and right. I love playing games. So my dad was like, all right, like I really appreciate my dad doing this too, by the way. He was constantly like trying to put me in situations to like figure out what I want to do later on in life.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
he got lucky. He hit the hammer on the nail first one. He signed me up to a boot camp at NYU for programming to making a game, right, in C++. It's a pretty difficult language to give a 7th grader, but, you know. So I started off there. I was learning programming and stuff. It was hard. Like, they asked me, like, I was the youngest kid there. I think the age range was like I was on the left, like I was on the lowest bound of like this is the minimum age and this is the maximum age. I was on the minimum age, and they asked me like, "Did you even take physics yet?" I'm like, "I'm in 7th grade." Like I didn't know. I didn't take physics. I'm in 7th grade, so naturally I couldn't really work on a physics-based game. Though I did learn a lot of math. I'm not gonna lie. I think what was the game I made? I think I just made a quick like reaction timer game. But regardless, I made a game which was actually pretty cool for a 7th grader in a difficult language. So that is like where I started. But it was like it's one of those situations where it's like you remember a lot of things, but you don't genuinely understand them, right?
Yeah.
It's 7th grader. You kind
It
of have
comes
to give
back to you later on.
yeah, like cut me
Yeah.
some slack. I'm a 7th grader. So, but I did understand a lot of things. Like one important thing is I understood how code works. Like I know that I can write something in this sequence and it will give me something. That is very important. So that's 7th grade. And since then, I've always like came back to programming. I wasn't coding 24/7, but like once every 3 months. When I say once, I mean like in a streak. So like 2 months of every 4 months, if you could say it that way. I would like pick up a random project, right? It would be like it would usually be like a little goofy project, but like it would still be a project, right? Like I actually do things to actively program, and it wasn't like, oh, I should get better at programming. I just wanted to. Like it was just like, oh, it would be really cool to make this. But the fact that I was thinking like that shows that I was like in the field already, you know? So that was 8th grade, 9th, and also for context, like I hated math. I hated
Really?
school.
What?
Yeah,
You hated math?
Yeah, I hated school. I hated math.
Surprising.
I hated math, bro. Because like why do I have to, like I don't know. I just hated it. Like especially short response questions. Oh my god. But like I hated math. I don't know what to say. And the reason why, looking back, is because of school. It's just the way that I was taught math that I hated it. That's
I can
really all
see
it was.
that.
Yeah. So then started high school, 9th grade. Oh my god, I was not going anywhere. Like you should have seen me. Okay, it's weird because like I'm not going anywhere, but at the same time I was doing things. Like I hated math, so during my algebra class I did all my homework for the other classes. So it's like I wasn't a dropout. I was doing my homework, but in the classes that I hated.
No,
So like I was doing bad in algebra because I was doing my Spanish homework in algebra. You know, I was never listening to everything, and I was always talking and stuff. I just hated like 9th grade. It was only fun because of the people. Like I'll be
Yeah.
honest. Yeah, I probably would have never came if I didn't like if I wasn't friends with anybody. So 10th grade started. I don't know why. I don't remember if I was in any of the same geometry classes as you. I don't remember. I had Miss Lee.
You were
But-
probably in the honors classes.
Eventually, yeah. So my first,
Probably not.
yeah. So in 10th grade, I started off in just like a regular, pretty much a zone class. I think it was for geometry, right? Because I didn't do good last semester. So then, like, I don't know why geometry was like a breeze for me. I didn't even think. Like, I didn't even have to think. I don't know. I just gave me a worksheet. I just knew how to do it.
Yeah, I felt
And I
that.
know why. 7th grade, when I took that boot camp, I was working with geometry to make, like, remember I told you I had that reaction tester game?
Yeah.
It was circles, and I had to click around. And and the way that it works is you don't just say draw circle, right? I mean, at least the thing that I was using to program for any computer science, I was using SFML. So the thing is, like, if you want to make things move in programming, you need to know what a vector is.
Right.
You need to know like the actual you actually need to compute like the direction things go and whatever. So I actually learned that without knowing that it's a vector, if that makes sense.
I see what you mean.
Yeah, I
You
learned
had
what
the
a
concept of it. You just
yeah,
didn't have
exactly.
a name to pair
yeah,
up with
like
it.
I knew what a vector was, for example, but I didn't know that it's a vector. So it was like so subconscious, but like that's why geometry was so easy for me.
You had
I
the
just recently figured this out
fundamental idea
too.
in your head. Now you just
Yeah.
need a name for it.
And I'm not even kidding. I got 100 in the class. I didn't get a single assignment in that class below 100. In fact,
Man.
I think I got 101 in that class, but the report cards cap it at 100.
yeah.
Yeah. So then my teacher was like, "Why are you not in honors?" And I was just like, I don't know. So the next semester, I don't remember. I don't even think they called the semester, but whatever. So then same teacher, but I had it in honors, right? I don't know. I was just the example for everybody. I don't know. I was just the example in like the entire class. Like my teacher was always just like, "Why don't you guys be like him? Why don't you guys be like him?" And I'm just like,
Yeah.
"Bro, come on, man. Like,
That's-
come on, man." And you know what's funny? She was saying this at the beginning. Like I didn't even we didn't have any assignments yet, but some kids were talking and they were just like, "Why don't you be like him?" I was talking too, man.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That was my first teacher that was my favorite, and I think I was a favorite.
That's
But
the thing in Asian culture, though. I'm guessing your teacher was
Yeah,
Asian.
she was Asian.
We do a lot of comparisons.
I was the only white kid in class too.
Right,
Probably, yeah.
I was the only white kid in class. I mean, there was like a few other colored students, but it was all an all Asian class, right? And also, that's actually why like my environment for so long has been all Asian. A lot of my friends are Asian, as you know.
You have a personality of Asian man.
I get that a lot because
More
I
than
hang
me.
out with a lot of Asian people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so with that class, remember that when a teacher's your favorite, there's two types of like being a favorite student. The first type of being a favorite student is the teacher's just gonna, be nice to you, give you all the good grades. The other one is she's gonna be more harsh to you because she wants you to learn more.
That's right.
My chem teacher, you remember her? She was very harsh.
Umezi?
Yeah, she was harsh on me. Like, dude, like
Right.
mid semester. I'm not saying I was a favorite, but I don't know. I just feel like she like went a little out of her way more for like to say things. Like for instance, there was a time where I wasn't focused on that class as much as the other classes, and she just straight up told to the whole class, "Yeah, look at Patrick. He just gave up." I'm like, "Damn, bro."
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm in here, bro.
Damn.
I'm not even kidding. The second she said that, A's all across the board, and it's like she knew it, bro. Like she was Ukrainian, so maybe she like understands.
I think it's the culture. over
Yeah,
there.
because
It's
shame.
that
I don't know.
tough
Something
love.
about shame gets me.
Yeah.
Shame gets me like to like start working harder. And I mean that's a few years later down the road. So back to the geometry thing. Yeah. So geometry's going well. Blah blah blah. I eventually went to just straight to So chemistry was also very easy for me. And why? Because in geometry, when things were easy for me in honors, they throw you a little like harder questions that you have to study, but not because like it's geometry that's hard. It's the wording that's hard. That's most of school, anyways. So I actually like study. My form of studying is to just do problems, not actually read. I don't really read textbooks and stuff. I just do problems.
Yeah.
But like, of course, if I don't understand something, maybe I go back. Yeah. So for geometry, I was just like studying all that stuff, and eventually I got better at it. But that studying habit kind of translated to like all my other classes. I got into chemistry. I just finished the whole textbook like in a semester. Like usually they only cover a few parts. I got bored at times. I was just doing it all. If you saw me at the lunch table in high school, I always had a textbook on, or like I had a stack of papers and I was always writing something with my pen. Sometimes I forgot to even pick up my lunch because I was just working on some problems. And
That's
it wasn't
respect.
and that's
Yeah.
the thing. Like that was, I feel like, the nurture part of me, grinding a little more, because it was so subconscious. It wasn't like, oh, I gotta do this, I gotta gotta push myself. I was just doing it.
Yeah, she's doing
Like
it.
I was carrying, like, my folder was, I didn't even have any worksheets that they gave me. I just had a stack. You remember this? I had a stack of every AP exam from 1970 to like 2012. When I was in class, you saw I never paid attention to her because I was always doing it. And one time she came up
That's
to us, she's like, "What are you
great.
doing?" She sees it, she's like, "All right, you can keep doing it."
What?
Yeah, so I did every single exam from 1970, A and B. Mind you, we only took A,
It's
Calc
like
A.
Yeah.
So I did A and B, and also Form A and Form B of each exam. So because some exams are given in two different ways.
With the
Yeah.
calculator, without
Yeah,
the
I did
calculator.
both. Yeah, exactly. I did all of it. So
What?
probably like 90% of it, but like I did all of that.
What you ended up getting on that test,
I
anyways?
think I got a 4, and I was so close to a 5. I think
Yeah.
I was so close to a 5. So that kind of got me tight because like I did all that for a 4. But I feel like if I did a little, I don't think I finished exactly every. Here's the problem. I also studied B. I think I only should have studied Calc A because the B kind of threw me off. I
Yeah.
feel like I would have put more time in A, but regardless, it's still a 4. And I actually got to waive a class in college, so
But
that
the
helped.
thing
anyways.
Yeah, it helped you.
The
out.
habits you develop.
That's the most important
Yeah.
You
thing.
develop very
Yeah.
good habits.
I don't care about the
for
grades.
academics.
Right.
It was the habits. So that is where I kind of learned to shut off my brain and just work. And in fact, it's not that I just learned how to do it. I wanted to. I like doing it. Like I like just going with the flow. Like I literally get into a flow state like that. I take out a worksheet. I read the first question. It might be a little difficult. I solve it. Second question, twice as easy. Third question, even double as easy. And I just keep going to it. And the next thing you know, I'm just like going through pages really easily. And that applied to like all my classes. And then in chemistry, that's where I learned really good study habits. I finally figured out like I have to keep practicing. I just have to keep solving questions, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. And that is the year that my programming kind of boomed. Also, one more thing, 11th grade. So what that chem thing I said was 12th. 11th grade, I signed up to that same boot camp again, but for older kids, because it was for 18-year-olds, and I think I was 17 at the time, so might as well make use of it. So that boot camp, same boot camp, it was also game development, but it was like a different like flavor of game development. Similar methodologies though, and oh my god, that thing was so easy for me. And it was ridiculous. It was like everything that they told me. Remember how I told you earlier? I knew the things, but I didn't understand them. I don't know, man. They just wrote it on the board. I'm like, oh, I thought like we should already know this. Like I don't know. Like it was so easy, and it's like mind subconsciously processed that for all those years. Like, because when I said I was programming, I wasn't programming in that specific language all those years. I was programming in a different language, which I also learned. But something about that, I don't know. So that, I just made like a pretty good game. And it was actually like, I don't know, it was such a breeze for me. But I also learned a lot of things. There's only one concept that really I struggled with. It was with pointers. That's why that's one of the reasons why C++ is actually really difficult. But besides that, I really, I don't know, it was just so easy for me. So then from then, I was like, all right, like, I now know how to learn. I now know this, because the bootcamp also taught me how to Google. It's so interesting because like the art of Googling is such a big thing. Like it's really interesting because knowing how to phrase your questions on Google is literally the difference between getting your answer or not.
Perhaps it's a logic.
Really?
Yeah, it is.
know
No, dude,
that.
it's really different. Like you can this applies not just to comp sci, but this applies to anything.
Yeah.
If you know how to phrase your question, I mean, even think about like if you ask a teacher, you know, like I can ask you a question and you might not know what I'm asking you.
Right.
Then I change the question. Now all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, this is what you're talking about. You know, Google's similar. Like, it's the way you give the question. Also, they give you whole different like search results. You know, so there could be a difference between like using a word in front of another word. Like it's knowing how to actually Google is a big thing. So like in last podcast, I remember I mentioned something like, oh, if you're not tech savvy, like you're not Googling. Like I don't mean that as like, oh, if you don't know how to Google. It's like, yeah, who doesn't know how to Google, right? What I mean is like, tech savvy wasn't the right word, but what I mean is like knowing how to Google is a very big thing.
Yeah,
But even more so, rather than knowing how to Google, knowing how to phrase questions or rephrase questions. Knowing how to ask the right question is a big thing.
There's a term for that. It's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Yeah, I do agree. So, yeah, so that's the thing. That bootcamp also helped me like learn how to, because the people teaching them were students of CS or even working in the field. So that helped me a lot. From then, I've just been programming pretty much like a few weeks of every month. So it was consistent at that point. That's where I started learning new languages. I covered mainly JavaScript and Python. And then, of course, I was bettering my C++. Last year of high school, I took an AP CS class, so they learned Java. Like, that language, Java was the easiest language of my life. And that's usually not the case for most people, and the reason why is because I have that C++ background.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the thing about C++ and Java, they're not the same language. They're completely different.
It's just the syntax is different.
Syntax is different, but the thing is, a lot of the... Okay, so primarily what they teach in schools is object-oriented programming is what we call it. C++ is what I was taught. I was taught object-oriented programming in C++ and Java. So the concept is the same. The way you implement it is different. So in the case of... am I going to say Java is easy? No, because there's a lot of things in Java that are different that they don't teach as a language. They're just using Java to teach CS, but they're not teaching Java, if that makes sense.
I see where
you're using Java as a tool to learn CS.
Yeah, to
put
learn
it that way.
The logics.
Which Java is still used to implement these things. However, Java has a lot of extra things that there's a reason why you use Java, but that's like more advanced CS, like to choose which language. But regardless, learning Java, easy. Like it was so easy for me to translate, and I'm very thankful Java doesn't have pointers. So it was literally easy. Like the only thing that I struggled with C++, Java didn't have. So it was like everything was easy for me. I showed up late to that class 40 minutes every day. Usually, and there was another kid who did the same. The teacher got mad at him. He didn't get mad at me. Why? Because I finished the project in 5 minutes. So he's like, bro, like, honestly, he was happy I didn't show up to class because I was helping the other kids. So he was actually happy I was late because I wasn't, pretty much, I wasn't doing other people's assignments, but like the other people didn't do their assignments. So I'm like, you know what? I might as well do it. And I mentioned earlier, like in school, I did a lot of, I hope I don't get shit for saying this, but I did a lot of assignments for other people for money. Like that was like my hustle in high school. That was the way I made money. I always had this thing where it was like, I'll teach you for free, but if you want me to do something for you, I'll pay. Why is that?
It's reasonable.
Because when I teach, I learn so much more. Think about it. Like when I'm explaining something to you, I will notice there's a gap somewhere. Like I'm in the middle of explaining something, and then I just stop talking. I'm like, wait, is that true? Or like, wait, like what's next? So like those gaps are literally what I'm missing.
The best ways to learn is to teach.
Exactly. I do agree. And to apply. So, I mean, think about it. If you can't explain it to somebody else, especially a baby,
then you don't know.
Then,
you can't use complex words. You have to use very easy words, too.
Yeah, I feel like it's important to be able to explain what you know to everybody. Either somebody above your level, the same level, or below your level. Or even somebody who's completely in a different field and doesn't understand anything you're saying. Like, if you could explain it to all 4 levels, you understand it.
It shows a mastery of understanding the topic.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like Einstein, I think it was Einstein who had a quote exactly like that, saying that if you can't explain something to a baby, you don't know it. I don't know that's the exact quote. That's like the gist of it, right?
Patrick, 2023.
Yes. If listen, if Einstein didn't say it, then I said it. So that's where 12th grade ended pretty much there. I just knew a lot of programming. I pretty much tried making all of the projects that I had associated with programming. Like we had a math project and I managed to make a website for it. So it was still math because I had to like use all the formulas. I had to understand what an integral is, et cetera, et cetera. But I managed to like put like a programming taste to it, which is funny too because that was also my CS project. So I did two birds in one stone. So that's the next thing. And pretty much the thing that's been carrying me on to today. I'm a huge believer of two birds in one stone. I don't know. I love attacking multiple things using one thing. And that's where efficiency comes in. I don't know. Something about like I feel like I'm a very efficient person. I do things very efficiently. And sometimes it makes no sense to do it efficiently because it's like, who cares, right? Like, who cares if you get home 2 minutes earlier? But like just the thinking of like, oh, if I just, if I do this, I'll get home like 3 minutes earlier.
It adds up.
Yeah, that way I could turn on my shower, and by the time I do that, it'll be warm water. I'll come in. Like, I think of these, like, little things. It's like, why? That's the point of thinking about it. It's useless. But it's like, just the thought of it actually helps me better with programming, too, because I'm constantly thinking of ways to make things efficient. So, fast forward to college. Well, it's not really fast forward. It's the next year. So, my first year of college, I already made a mistake for day one. I went to my advisor. That was my mistake. God bless those advisors because most of them are students and they actually do take time out of the day to do it. But the thing is, a lot of people, a lot of the advisors that I've met, maybe that's not all, I'm not going to say it's all of them, but a lot of advisors that I've met, they're there to make your school life easier. They're there to make it more comfortable, which some people would prefer. The thing about being comfortable is, I already took that. By the way, I forgot to mention, my 12th grade, I took 5 AP tests. I took 5 AP classes.
Really?
Yeah, I took 5, and I didn't study for any of them, and I passed all of them.
Nice.
Sorry, I keep saying this that I don't study. I don't read.
You crammed them last week, I'm guessing.
Some
Not
of them.
even,
No?
No, not even. Because, like, for example, chemistry, I was working on it all the time. So, okay. I keep saying that. I tell everybody that I know, I don't study. I don't read as much as people do.
Studying doesn't necessarily equate to reading.
Yeah, that's the thing.
If you were working on practical, I consider that studying, too.
Exactly. So, I technically do study. I don't know why. For me, studying and reading is like a one-on-one, which is not the case. So, I did study a lot. Like, I study in a different way, put it that way. Because a lot of the time they're teaching you, okay, read the textbook. I don't get shit from the textbook.
But that's not how everybody learns.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the most efficient way of studying, right?
What I
That's
do
where it
is
goes
I
from.
skip to the problems.
Yeah.
I start to answer them. And when I hit a problem, okay, what do I need to do? Okay, I need to know how to integrate x cubed. Okay, I'm going to go back to the part of the textbook that talks about how to integrate. I read one paragraph. Oh, okay, I know now. I go to the problem. I solve it. That's it. I don't need to read the whole chapter. I just read one paragraph.
You don't have to understand the history of the integral of x cubed.
Exactly. Like, if you're interested, go ahead, read the history. But, like, I mean, proofs are also kind of important because that's actually why I was successful in math. It avoids all needing of memorization. If you can prove something, you know it does not matter what the question is. You know how to derive it. You know how to do it from start to end. Yeah. You don't need to memorize anything. I always hated memorization, which is why I always did bad in classes like English, Spanish, blah, blah, blah. English was my worst class. Like, oh my God. I hated writing. I hated that because I love logic. I like solving things, right? Yeah. But the thing about English is there's no answer. It's just whatever you want to write.
There's no solid answer.
There's a interval of answers. There's no one answer. And in math, all my life, I've just been solving one thing at a time. But, one thing, eventually I did notice that in programming, there is no one solution to all problems. There's more efficient solutions, but there's no one solution to all problems. There's a lot of implementations. And that's actually why I started, being more lax about that whole English thing. But what's it called? Yeah, so 12th grade, I took a lot of AP classes. So that's also what developed me being able to multitask too. Multitasking is a little weird with me, but what I mean is I can take on a lot at once is what I'm trying to say. Like, something about me being able to divide things really well and actually solving everything at once is really like what I thrive in. So actually, in fact, that's what I thrive in. Like I said, one when I have one difficult class, I do worse than having 5 difficult classes. It's interesting.
That's
Yeah.
that's counterintuitive.
It is,
Yeah.
right? That's actually why. So I failed to mention this in the last podcast, but like why COVID was amazing for me. I essentially took 9 classes a semester. I took 7 and then I took 9. Ironically, my 1 credit classes were the most time consuming, but that's how it is. Yeah, so I took 9 classes and I actually ended up learning more, and I ended up doing, if not the same, better than my other semesters, right? In fact, the semester I took 9 classes, which is most class I ever took, was the semester that I had all of the classes were the hardest classes I've ever taken. Oh my God, that AI class, that teacher used to teach at MIT. She came from MIT to teach this class. She was not joking around. Like, that class was genuinely my hardest class, and that was the class I was most grateful for in Hunter. That class was insanely difficult, but it was beautiful. I learned so much from it.
And you grew a lot. Too.
And I did, yeah. And I don't know, it's just amazing. Like, I started becoming such a better programmer and general thinker because of that. But on top of that really difficult AI class, I was taking Calc 3, I was taking linear algebra, I was taking computer architecture 2, I was taking computer theory, I was taking symbolic computation. What else was there? I don't even remember. I think it was just like, the rest of them were like gen ed classes. Oh no, I was taking network security as well. I was taking a lot of classes. I think the last 2 were gen eds.
What would you say the skills that you took off from those overloading your schedule in that semester?
I put myself in a situation where I'm forced to be efficient with my time.
Mm-hmm.
So studying 3 hours a subject was not an option.
No.
It was not an option.
You don't have the time.
Yeah.
Because at the time, I also was really heavy on training as well.
Yeah.
That was the time where I picked up on powerlifting, and I'm one of those guys. I was at the gym for like 3 hours, not because like I'm talking all the time, but because I have a really long workout regime, and also I rest a lot in between sets, and like heavy sets. So I was at the gym for like 3 hours. Sometimes like one thing that annoyed me about one of my classes is like, you need your camera on. You need your camera on. They randomly picked on you. I'm like, come on, man. Like, I learned better on my own. Like, when I'm in class, I just can't listen. Like, I don't know, something about it. But I would come home from the gym. I'd have my camera on. You see me just walking home from the gym, right?
Yeah.
Because like that's the only time I could squeeze it in. And yeah, so that's what I was saying. Like, it forced me to think outside the box in terms of how do I study. Because I can't do 3 hours a day, because that's 27 hours, and it's not, the 27 hours in a day doesn't exist. So I had to learn how to optimize my time, because I also have other responsibilities, including the gym. So the way that I did it was, I think that's what helped me figure out like how to study really efficiently. I just tackled the hardest problem, and that's the 20-80 rule, really. 20% of the problems is 80% of what I had to learn. So I tackled the hardest problem. Usually, it was the project they assigned me that was due the month in advance. If I finish that project, I just do all the homeworks in 2 seconds because I understand everything now. That was usually the case. I can see that.
The homework's built up to the big project.
Yeah, that was the structure for most of my classes. If not projects, then it was exams. So I just took a practice exam. So screw all the homeworks I had for the next 2 weeks. I just took the practice exam that we're gonna have in a month and a half. I solved the whole practice exam. I went back to the homeworks, and they were all easy.
That is smart, actually.
That is smart.
I was forced to learn that because now look, I got the exam. I spent maybe 3 hours on it in one day. I mean, 3 hours is actually a little time to study a whole exam because some of my exams are pretty long. But this was for Calc 3 what I did. So I would download the exam. Sometimes I would have to download like multiple ones if I could find them like throughout the years. And I just solved them. That's it. I just solved them because here's the thing about homeworks. It's a big worksheet of like 20 questions of the same topic.
Yeah.
So now, but of course, that's what cements it into your brain. Don't get me wrong. However, what allowed me to even understand it I pretty much skipped the textbook phase for all of my homeworks because I went straight to the exam and I just solved it all. Of course, not at first try. Obviously, I had to learn them as I go. But as I learned it, I did the first exam. I did the second exam. All right, and then that's where the cramming part comes in. So I always did my homework the night before. that's because I studied my exams the other times, so I'm able to do it the night before because I don't have to study for them anymore.
Yeah.
I just have to think, don't get me wrong, but that's the thing. I don't have to study now. I don't have to learn it because I just have to think. So now I just think throughout it. I get into that state of flow where I'm just solving this question. All right, this is like the previous question. I'm going to do that. Oh, this question's phrased a little differently, but the concept's still the same. All right, solve. So that pretty much like made my Calc 3 so much easier. And then linear algebra goes with it too, kind of.
That's interesting. That's kind of a parallel to your upbringing, if you think about it.
What do you mean?
So in your upbringing, you mentioned that you took a lot of comp sci, like in the 7th grade, the very opening state.
Yeah.
And then when you took it again, when you were 17 years old with 18-year-olds, everything was so easy.
Yeah.
You're pretty much doing the same idea.
Yes.
Applying it to
Yeah,
Calc
would
3.
you say like you like taking on like the more challenging things first?
Yeah.
So then when you go back to these things, like they just come naturally
Yeah,
to
and
you.
to put it differently, like thanks for reminding me because that's what I wanted to say. So I'm a backwards thinker.
Like yeah, right.
I
Like,
start from
yeah.
the hardest thing that you can possibly think of imaginably, and then everything's easier.
Yeah, that's better than the other way around if you think about it. It's
It
more
depends on the
Right,
person.
right, right.
Some people
Yeah.
like genuinely like cannot break that rock. Like they just can't like get into that challenging thing because sometimes they need somebody to mentor them, and sometimes there isn't availability for that. I'm very self-sufficient to that degree. Like I will figure out a way.
Perhaps it's I think it's confidence.
Maybe. I mean, that's a big factor. I did notice a lot of kids in computer science that I've seen so far, like especially in the beginning, it's like, oh, but like what if my code won't run? Dude, run it. Your computer's not gonna break if you run the code.
Right, yeah.
Like run it. Oh, we got an error. It's wrong. That's it.
Yeah,
Like a lot of people are worried to even press the run button. I
Really?
noticed. Yeah, it's a big thing. I don't know why, because they want to get it first try. I think I don't know what it is.
That's another problem that we have. Like,
Yeah, people are scared of failure.
What? No, not that. It's what's the word? When you have so many factors and you think about so many things, it prohibits you from moving even the first.
Yeah.
step.
I agree. I don't know what it's called. I don't remember what it's
There's,
called, but I know
there's a
exactly what
phrase
you're
for
talking
that,
about.
but that's what it means. Like for me, it's swimming.
It's like
Like I can't swim, but I know for a fact I'm just gonna jump in.
analysis paralysis.
Yes, that analysis paralysis.
Analysis paralysis. That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So people are just constantly analyzing situation without actually doing it.
Yeah, but like the best way to learn is always to jump in. Like for me,
Jump into it.
I can't swim properly. I'm still learning to breathe. But within the first 3 seconds, I stepped in like fuck it.
That's how I learned.
I jumped in. I stopped every like 3-4 feet because I still suck at it. But I'm still going. I'm gonna go later today and just constantly do it. And I just for a brief moment I stopped. Whenever I was resting, I was just looking around, just watch how other people do it and try to like mimic them the best of my ability.
Yeah, and actually that's good that you say that because how did I even learn programming to begin with? A lot of YouTube videos. And here's the thing, like a lot of people are like, yeah, but you're just copying this guy's code. Yeah, I'm typing it. I'm not copying pasting. Something about typing the code actually allowed me to understand it so much more. I don't know what it is, but I know what it is.
It's like where you're writing versus where you're typing.
Yeah,
things.
exactly. Like I was writing it, but at the same time, I was understanding why he's writing it, and because of that, I started to understand like algorithms and stuff. It's similar to like if you're actually learning a language like Spanish, you're remembering phrases. In this case, you're remembering algorithms.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like a phrase is like in Spanish, like if you want to say like "How are you," the equivalent in like computer in programming it would be like, okay, how do I sort an array? Like it's like a phrase, like if it gets to the point where you just remember it. You know what I mean? And also you understand like why it works, but you get to the point where because you understand it, you just keep using it so many times, you just start throwing it left and right because
It's also the
you remember it.
context of how you learn it. If you learn it in a context that makes you like excited or joyful about it, you're gonna learn it better. Like for me, the way I learn Spanish at first is with the curse words, and that's how most people do it.
Right.
Like if you were to learn Mandarin, the first thing you're gonna learn are the curse words. You're gonna remember them more.
Right.
That's my friend who learned Russian. Like he
Yeah.
started with the curse words.
Yeah, like that's how I'm learning Spanish. Like, right now,
That's funny.
Right now, I'm learning how to flirt in Spanish.
Yeah.
And I remember those more than like actually like how to conjugate verbs.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And so like to go back to the college thing, like that's how I managed to do it all. I mean, don't get me wrong with the computer science thing. It was a little easier for me because I have a huge background. Since 7th grade, I've been programming. There were a lot of things like computer architecture that I never learned because it's like, how does a computer work? Like in terms of hardware, like the ins and outs of the actual computer. How does a CPU do anything? That I didn't learn because it's not. I was only learning programming, but something about like the programming mindset. Like I understand. Just I've been around it for so long that it was easier for me to catch on to. Don't get me wrong. Some of the classes were really difficult, but they weren't difficult because I didn't understand. I mean, yes, I didn't understand, but they were difficult because they were genuinely difficult problems
Yeah.
that I actually had to think a lot. It was more thinking. There you go. It was more thinking than actually like
Doing.
there was a lot of doing, but what I'm trying to say is like I didn't have to go back to reference things. I just had to. It was just all my brain. That's all I was missing.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And that's actually one thing that actually really did help me. I didn't realize, but the whole problem solving thing. I played so much chess. I don't know. Chess helped me so much to think, man. I think like so much more ahead is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. It's not about like, oh, you're thinking chess, now you know how to think. It's like,
It's
in
a
which
metaphor
way?
for life.
Yeah. So one thing I did notice that helped me in programming. I play so much chess, I can start following through easily. So, okay, this variable has this value. Okay, I pass it to this function. It goes through this class and makes a new object, blah, blah, blah. It does this. I have like a whole sequence of events in my head that's going to happen without me even like having to visually see what's going on in the code. Something about chess that allowed me to like really process things in the future much easily.
It's the strategy. That's what I think it is. Like chess, besides the openings, because you can learn the openings.
Yeah.
But once it goes like mid game, end game, you don't think of it like moves that you make. You think about strategies like, oh, if I flank him this way or I attack him this way.
Yeah, and that's the amazing part about translating chess to anything else. The opening, you know, like there's only so many ways you can start something in anything. Like, of course, I'm going to use programming as an example. Actually, let's use fitness as an example. There's only how can you start? You just go to the gym or you just go to the park. You know, there's not many ways to start. However, if you want to improve, now there's a lot of ways. You got to think of it.
The end game,
Right.
the end game is truly chess.
Exactly.
Like you start by going to any gym, running, lifting weights.
That's
but
the
you,
opening.
But you can end any way: powerlifting, boxing, calisthenics.
Exactly.
So on and so forth.
And like exactly like you said, like openings, it's like there's only so many ways you can open, but like once you get into like mid game, now it's like, all right, I want to do some powerlifting. Like I want to get stronger. Oh, I want to do some conditioning. I want to be able to run longer. Oh, this or that. Like I want to be able to just do muscle ups. Like, you know, some of the goals. But like
Muscle ups are sexy.
yeah, but like a powerlifter, like his main goal isn't to do muscle ups. So like now you get into like the mid goal, like the mid game where it's like there's so many, like now you have to think, like what do you want?
Yeah.
Like how do you want to approach this? And
How do
this
you
being your
want to
life,
move
your
the
game of
board
life is chess in
ahead?
this case.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you have to approach the way you do that. So that's I feel like that's why chess helped me a lot. Like the thinking of chess was really cool. I think I have like 3,000 games played now at this point. Like I played a lot. So and it's amazing.
So you have 3,000 points?
Yeah.
3,000 like games played.
Oh.
Yeah, like I like when I'm bored, I just turn it on, play like
Sorry.
a quick 5-minute game, and just that's it.
Yeah.
Like I love it so much. But now, like if we had to get to my like weaknesses, I think I'm too fast sometimes. That was actually where I ended off at the podcast last time. Take it slow. I said take it slow. I think I'm too fast. And I'll just use chess as an analogy again. I don't sit down to think long enough sometimes. It's not like, oh, like I'm so bad that I just don't know. I didn't see it. I mean, hell, most of the time I don't see it. But like I make easy mistakes very easily because I don't sit down to think, even on the easier ones, which I still should think at least a little bit.
You know what that may be? I think that's just a problem about age range.
Maybe. I'm not sure. It could be that.
That definitely short. Our attention spans are shorter relative to the previous generations.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Maybe it is an attention
But
span.
mostly
Maybe.
impatience. I know that's my biggest problem. I am not patient.
But that's what's interesting because I think I'm a very patient person. That's actually why I feel like I teach really well because I'm so patient, right? Like when somebody needs help with something, they will get it wrong millions of times. I'm stoic the whole time.
So let me ask something.
Yeah.
You're patient with other people. Are you patient with yourself?
See, that's the thing. I don't think I was. I think lately I have been. Yeah. And actually, I've been doing a better job with like the burnout situation because there would be a time where I just spike crazy up in terms of like doing things like I mentioned last time with you, like Duolingo, I was doing Spanish and like I got like 3,000 experience in one day. Dude, that's like 3 or 4 hours of Spanish.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then the next days I caught on to that, and now I'm like down to like 300 or 500, which is still a lot, but like it's so much more manageable to me. I started feeling the burnout after day 2 because it's like I'm doing 7 hours of Spanish, bro, in 2 days.
Yeah, you're
like,
impatient to learn. You're
Exactly.
to learn Spanish, which forces you to actually backtrack.
Exactly.
Move forward.
So now I picked up on that. I realized, and now I've went down, and now it's cool because now I kind of know how I feel when I'm burnt out. So when I do start feeling burnt out, okay, I'll just ease it down a little bit so tomorrow I could still do it.
You know, I figured that part out when I was working in real estate. But a great solution to that is the gym.
The gym.
The gym.
Think about it. Like for me, I can go to the gym and work give it my 100%.
Right.
But for the next 3 days, I'm fucked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot. Sometimes I go to the gym, hit all my maxes. 225 deadlifts for sets, 275 squats for sets, right? And the next day I can barely walk.
Yeah.
Right? I feel like shit. Like even when I'm taking clients out, I'm like, hey man, you just gotta give me a second. I'm gonna walk very slow today. And yesterday was leg day.
I think we've all been through that phase where you fell in love with fitness so much you go to the gym twice a day, 3 times a day.
I'm at that
been
point
there,
right now.
been
I'm
there.
only-
Everyone's been there at some point, and eventually you like some people. I mean, don't get me wrong. Some people still do it because that's actually part of their schedule, and that's okay. Like for instance, like there was a time where I started realizing like that you could go twice a day, but don't max out both
No,
times.
No,
right?
no, you gotta be strategic. about
Yeah,
how you do
and
that.
that's the thing. When you fall in love, you just want to keep doing it.
Yeah.
So like
Right,
you
right.
you go heavy on deadlifts like in the morning. Let me do some squats today. Like I'm gonna go heavy at night. It's the same day. Like I feel like that getting past that phase is what helps with burnout as well.
Yeah.
Like figuring out how to stop doing that. Because you have to understand that rest is as important as actually training.
If not
and not
more.
only if not
Yeah,
more, not
right.
only in fitness but in everything too.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of like language learning videos I've been looking at recently, they do mention a lot about like if you just do like nonstop language learning all day, you're probably not gonna remember most of it
This is true.
because it's like you have it all up here, but it's not going to your subconscious. Like you're not really absorbing it.
It's also another thing. I was watching this Joe Rogan podcast. This guy, he's talking about training. And the way he approaches training is that give 50% every day. For example, if you can do maximum 15 pull-ups, do 7. You just do 7, stop, tomorrow do 7. Because if you do maximum 15 one day, you're done for 3 days.
Yeah.
Right? And then you have to come back. But if you do 7 every day for 3 days, by the end of 3 days, you already have 21. So relatively speaking, you're doing more, but in a greater span. And that actually helps you build up the muscle memory, the constantly, flow. You don't break your flow as much.
Yeah.
For example, when I first, my back got better a couple of days ago, I went for a 6-mile run. I fucking went too hard on the chest. It was chest and arm day. Went too hard on everything. And I was done for another day.
Hmm.
You know
I noticed that's how a
Yeah.
lot of programming works. Programming in terms of fitness, not programming like coding. A lot of programming I did notice is based like coaches. They actually make it based off of how their athlete responds to the workouts. Like for instance, if some workouts are extremely sore, they have to cut back on like the exercises so they can actually finish the block.
Yeah.
They can
Right,
finish
right,
the
right.
whole program. I did notice that a lot. Being in powerlifting, I did notice like how important it is to actually have a really good program.
Yeah.
Because if you
Oh, yeah.
genuinely want to improve your strength, you actually have to be strategic about it. You
Yeah.
have to like know your body as well, which is why I actually have so much respect for coaches because coaches need to understand their athlete's body.
Right.
Like, and it's like they don't get it first try. So like they just kind of like see how they lift.
It's a relationship.
Yeah, I know one person that like just sees how a person lifts and they instantly have like 50 things to critique about and they're valid critiques.
Yeah.
It's insane, but like I don't know how you see that, but so that's why I have so much respect for those guys. Like, and when it comes to like programming in the fitness industry, like at least specifically in powerlifting, because that's what I have experience with, but like it's not like you can just throw out a number and you just know it. Like you have to base it off of something you've done before. You can't just say, okay, I'm going to do 315 deadlifts today, and it's your first time deadlifting. It's like you need to work off of your previous thing, and that's
You're
what's
gonna
cool.
post something.
Exactly, and that's what's cool about fitness. It's like, it's really like a personal journey.
Yeah.
There's like, it's not like you do it for me, right? You can like help structure it for me, and I could follow it. But hell, even that might not work because I know myself very well, right?
Yeah.
So
Like your routine's most optimal for you.
exactly,
Not necessarily for me.
and
We're
that's the thing.
different
And
peoples.
how did I even get my routine? I had to start.
Trial and error.
Exactly. So eventually you build that yourself. You know yourself. You know your maxes. You know this and that, and then you work off of that. And I feel like that's the most important thing in life. A lot of people tend to compare themselves to others.
Yeah.
Comparison is the theft of joy.
Yeah, like a lot of people compare themselves like, okay, but like this guy did it in 3 years. Yeah, but
Yeah.
like it's this guy. It's not you.
Yeah, like he's
Yeah.
also different genetics, different body.
Exactly.
I think-
Everything's different. Even diet.
Yeah, when I first worked out with you, that was my biggest problem. I see you fucking deadlifting 225 for sets.
But like I've only trained strength training for like
Yeah.
the past few years.
And at the time, I just started. I was 6 months in my fitness journey. My max was 225 for one, at that time.
Yeah, and like I mean, here's another thing too. Like, like there's always going to be like when no matter where you are at like no matter what stage you're at, you're always going to at least know one person that is stronger than you. And
That's just
because of
life.
exactly, and
Yeah.
because of that, a lot of people give themselves shit for not being at that level. They're like.
Right.
Like some guy like comes to you and they're like, "Damn, like I see you like repping 315 for deadlift, right?" And the guy's like, and I'm just like, "That's something to be happy about," you know what I mean? Like it's interesting like distinguish like it's really interesting because like you have one guy that's like saying like good shit like like you're strong as hell, and I'm just thinking like, I am,
Yeah.
like
And then in your mind, you're comparing yourself to the guy who can lift 500 pounds.
yeah, and then
sets.
that exactly, and I do that to that. I say that to that guy, and he's like, really?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just like an
it just constantly
infinite.
goes.
It's an infinite thing.
Yeah, it
but
doesn't help when the body is moving. It kicks in either.
yeah, that's another thing. I mean, one thing I'm not even gonna lie. Like ever since I started training powerlifting, I started getting a big gut because I've been eating a lot.
Yeah.
I've been eating a lot, but
that's,
honestly,
that's what you have to do in your.
I mean,
powerlifting.
yeah, it is something you have to do, but I do neglect cardio.
Fair enough.
There's arguments that like, oh, it ruins your thing, but there's also arguments that it doesn't ruin. It's just like I should be doing my cardio. I just think I just don't do enough cardio. So that's another thing I'm missing.
Hey man, we don't skip legs, we skip cardio.
Exactly. So actually, it's also funny. Like I always love. This goes back to like my like what's my favorite like complicated thing. Like I love complicated things. My favorite day is leg day. It's always been.
Yeah.
I always
You
love.
probably
leg
do
day.
legs on Monday, probably.
I did at some point, yeah. Like I just love.
Type thing, yeah.
Actually, it's a little weird because like it got to the point where I was doing deadlifts and squats the same day. It was weird. Like I stopped doing like the whole push pull legs, even though I loved it, because I had to like because I'm at a point where I have to train 3 days a week as opposed to 6 or 5.
Oh, okay.
So I have to like do like deadlifts and squats one day, or like sometimes deadlifts and bench one day. So it's kind of like.
That's interesting. You're
Yeah.
actually doing less workout.
What do you mean?
Like you instead of I remember when we used to talk. Well, when I first met
The
you.
volume's the
4
same
or
in the
5.
week.
Okay,
The volume's the same in the week, if not more or less sometimes.
but you allocate in less time, same volume.
Yeah, so it's a little. It's just I space them out differently. That's really what it is.
Okay, I can
yeah,
see that.
that's the thing. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
thinking of getting back into push pull leg just for a little bit because I had to
That's interesting. I'm going
Yeah.
the opposite direction. I'm actually going. And now I'm going 7, like 2-3 times.
play
a
around
week.
with it. Just do everything, man.
Just because I have to train. Like mostly, I'm getting less into weightlifting.
Mhm.
Like I've been going down my weights, but going hard on my cardio.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine for the Air Force, you do need
Yeah.
like good
Yeah.
cardio.
Yeah,
Like
because
those guys, like put like 100 pounds on
Yeah.
their back, and they have to hike miles. Like, what is that, bro?
yeah, like I can do that, but I don't think I can do that for like 3 hours.
The conditioning. There's
Yeah.
conditioning, endurance.
So as of right now, I'm trying to like, I'm doing a 1.5 mile run. First set, 1.5 mile run, 30 push-ups, 30 sit-ups, 7 pull-ups.
One of my favorite one of my favorite cardio is rucksacking. I don't know why I love
Which one?
rucksacking. Rucksacking. You
Rock
basically
sacking?
you basically wear a really heavy bag and you just walk.
That's interesting.
I mean, hell, I always do it.
Yeah,
you
you
know
always
this,
do
right?
that,
My
yeah.
bag is always 20 pounds. Always. Like this bag right here
Really?
is like. This bag right here is like. Look how heavy this shit is.
Nah, you bugging.
Like
What the
all of my
fuck?
bags are always heavy. Hell,
Oh,
even in
man.
high school, I had 2 bags. I think you remembered,
Yeah.
right? I had a big ass
Oh,
bag with all my
yeah, you can
textbooks in
bring
it,
his one bag.
and I had a duffel bag with a whole weeks of
Duffel
clothes because I
bag.
did wrestling.
Right.
So I always love wearing heavy shit because I'm just like, that's another thing. I'm like, dude, I'm walking every day. I might as well just get stronger.
Yeah, it's
So I'm just gonna throw it on, and I
Yeah,
always
that
got,
goes back to the efficiency thing.
yeah,
about it,
exactly.
too.
Yeah.
wow.
Let's go back to the efficiency thing. That is true. Like I'm always walking anyways. The buses, I stopped taking buses to school because that thing takes longer than walking. It's a
Right.
40-minute walk and a 60-minute bus ride.
Good point.
Yeah.
And it's
Yes.
only like what 5 stops. So I started walking to school. And mind you, I was at wrestling at this time, so it only helped me. So I started walking. I rucksacked. I went to school. I had gym. Then I had wrestling practice for like 3 hours. I was dead. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, in high school I had wrestling and I was for like a few hours. I used to be obese, so getting into wrestling, it just wiped me out like in terms of weight. I lost, I think it was like 30 to 40 pounds in one, like it was all water weight for
Yeah.
that one time. But yeah, wrestling was another thing I was doing. I was balancing at the same time. That's actually another thing about discipline too. Wrestling is like, whoa, man.
Mm-hmm.
Wrestling, it's like, dude, what I love about wrestling is there's no trials. There's no tryouts because
Oh,
you're
you
just
just
going to
go
quit. Like
Yeah.
if you don't like it, then you're just going to quit. That's what I feel like. Those are my favorite types of tryouts. I understand that some teams like need like top of the top, so they need tryouts.
Yeah.
But like like in high school, it's like not having tryouts is pretty cool because like you accept everybody, but like if the sport or like the training is hard enough, the people who don't want to be in there, you don't want them anyways.
Filter them
Right.
out.
It's like a
Filters them out,
filtering
right,
system. It's pretty
yeah.
cool, yeah. And I feel like if I didn't have my past like with the whole discipline thing, I would have just quit. I feel like.
Yeah, because it seems to me like based on your past, every moment that you were given, like boot camp, wrestling.
Yeah, I knew it was a process.
Just build your discipline. Like you didn't realize it at the time, but now
Yeah.
looking back, all of these little things they help you build your discipline.
Yeah, that's definitely what it was. And that's also when I started like learning wrestling's also when I started learning how to like diet better, like how to actually control my diet and eat proper things. That's also when I was, in my trial and error phase. I was doing keto, I was doing this, blah blah blah, just playing around. Surprisingly, keto was better than I actually anticipated. Keto was very cool with my brain. I don't know.
So let me ask you something.
Yeah, what's up?
If you were to say one thing that really helped your discipline, what would you say is the biggest factor that pushes you to go for a higher discipline or keep up with your discipline?
Me personally, or just one? Because there's a
You
lot of
pers-
things.
It's your personal.
There's a lot of
Sa-
things.
Same thing for you, Kevin. Like, what's something that you think about that whenever you're slacking your discipline, like, oh shit, this is actually important. I should use that to continue on to pushing on my discipline. This is why I need to be disciplined, or how I become disciplined.
Okay, I think of my best self.
Your best self.
Yeah, so like if I'm slacking off, I'm like, wait, I used to do this shit easily. Why am I struggling?
Yeah.
That's kind of what gets me onto it. It might be
Right.
it might be the shame. Like I'm ashamed of the fact that I'm like, for example, 3 years older, but how am I worse in this
Right.
case, right? Eventually, when I get older, though,
Well, that's
I have to
interesting.
deal with that, though. Because when I get older, it's inevitable that my body's not going to be as good as it used to be in the 20s.
Yeah.
But that's like when I'm 40.
But you haven't reached your peak yet.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So like I usually this is what happens. I look back, and this actually happens pretty often. I think back and I'm like, damn, I used to be at my peak 2 years ago, which isn't true. I just think of it because I had more accomplishments. But just
Yeah.
because you have more accomplishments doesn't mean that you were better than you are today.
No.
You could have just been in better environments. You could have been in easier environments, or you were just starting out. Like, I mean, when you start out, you get a lot of accomplishments.
Yeah.
I forgot. I think it was the Dunning-Kruger effect. I think that's what it's called. Basically,
Well, the growth is like this. It's
like this, and then it goes like that.
Yeah.
So basically,
Yeah.
when you start off something, also like you're very confident, you do good, beginner's luck essentially, and then
yeah.
eventually, like you start to realize all the things you need to learn, and you're like, shit, I don't know anything. You start
But-
losing your confidence, and then over time, you get better. You start understanding things more. You get more confident
yeah.
again.
But if you zoom out on that, essentially the economic cycle.
Yeah, like in the end of the day,
Sorta.
you are better, right?
Yeah.
Like if you were even 1% better than the day, like I think compound effect, they talk about that.
Yeah.
If you're
it's-
better than your previous self, 1%
like
every day, in the end of the year, you're 40 times
36%?
better.
40 times, yeah.
You're 40 times better than you were the year before,
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, it has to be the fact that it has to be me being ashamed of the fact that I'm not growing, I guess. It's the fact that the fact that I'm not better than I was previously, which usually isn't the case, but just having that mentality is kind of like a healthy, unhealthy thing. The
That's
unhealthy
interesting.
part would be like I'm bashing myself. The healthy part would be that I'm actually growing.
Yeah.
But over time, I started
you're pushing
realizing that.
yourself higher, but at the same time, the way you're doing it is referring to yourself in a negative connotation.
Yeah, but over
Yeah.
time I started realizing that the negative, like I started like suppressing the negative and starting to realize that like I am better than I am before. I just want more accomplishments.
I got you.
That's what it is. So because of that, I start to work harder for certain things, and then I get it. But if I had to say one thing, like it hasn't been in my life for a bit now, but one thing that I definitely do recommend is martial arts. Doesn't matter which one. It goes back to the fitness thing.
I think any sport
Start
in general.
anything.
Any sport in
Yeah.
Any
general.
sport in general, but something about martial arts, because let's just say, I mean, I don't know, I haven't trained boxing, so I don't know if they teach that in boxing as well, because a lot of people do boxing and they just start off with punching, right, and actually learning the sport. The thing about like the martial arts that I've done, actually no, that's not true. Yeah, it's pretty much any something about martial arts. I don't know, something
I
about
think
like
it's you're in a competitive environment.
something about being in combat with someone else,
Yeah.
but being cool with each other is really like
Yeah,
it's
like,
really interesting.
You're
And
not
you
trying
re-
to kill each other, but you're trying to better each
No,
other.
you are trying to kill each other, but like you guys are both having fun at it. And you guys understand you're not going like you're not once you get to the killing step, you stop.
Right.
It's one of those things. Like for example, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, like you're gonna put somebody in a submission. If you go any harder, you're gonna break his joint. But obviously you guys aren't gonna do it. You guys aren't in an actual fight. I feel like I don't know, something about, because if you could train martial arts, no, training your martial arts yourself, you probably get that too. There's something about combat. I don't know why. It's something about from like in me. Like
I think
you
it's
can train soccer,
Men. It's men being
Maybe.
men.
like
Nature.
because when you do soccer, I don't know. I obviously haven't done
Yeah.
soccer professionally or in any sport, but like soccer, it's like
The training.
you will learn. There is something
Yeah.
common between everything. The
I think
discipline.
it's the training that really gets it.
Yeah, it's the training
It's
for
the
every
training.
sport.
It's,
I think
it
that's
goes
what
back
it
to
is.
the like working out. It's the training, the process, because you have to be consistent. You have to have discipline. You have to be focused
Yeah.
or to properly work
That
out.
is what it is.
Yeah. But what about you, Kevin? What is something that when you're in the moment of losing your discipline, or
Losing my discipline.
how would you get back on track, or what do you what kind of mindset do you use to get back on track?
Nah, I mean, for me, I just always think about like the past experiences and like you said, like the traumas that one has been through, and I think of that, and I also think about like how far like my family has come to get me to this point, right? Because I feel like I have this unique opportunity to really make a difference, and through that, I have to keep going. It's like I have no other choice. Like this is it, right? So I force myself to be disciplined because my ancestors, they didn't have a choice. I have a choice, like per se, right? Like, cause I could be like slacking off, and I just do whatever I want, right? Like essentially, right? My ancestors did not have that choice. They'll have to work the fields. They'll have to work, sunset to sundown, all day, all night to feed their families. Like they had no other choice. This is what they do. This is what they are. There's no like changing from that, right? But eventually it comes a point where they've worked so hard that they have a little bit of opportunity, but they pass it down to the next generation. I so happen to be that next generation. So I have to make sure that all that hard work that they put in actually was worth it for them to put it in. So that's where I come in, and I'm like, okay, it's like almost like I have all this like weight on my shoulders where I have to do this because there's no other option. And a lot of people don't understand that. They're like, oh, I guess you can say they're like ungrateful about it.
Yeah,
They're
I see
like
that.
they don't understand the true hard work that people have put in for you to be in this opportunity, even just to be in this country, because my family are immigrants, right? My mom came to this country in like 98. So that's fairly recent,
Yeah.
right? That's fairly recent. I mean, other people that I know, like they've told me like, oh, like their grandparents was here like in 45, That's very much different from someone that just came like just recently,
You want to pay homage to your folks coming in. Doing all
Exactly.
that bullshit to get you where you are.
Yeah, especially my mom. My mom being a single mom, like she herself has been like through so much, right? To get me to go, like she invested everything she had into making sure that I was able to have that opportunity. So it's like this is what I have to do. This is like almost my destiny. Like I have to do this regardless one way or another. So I always think back to that. And when I do, like, sometimes it may be like a bit like you're a bit too hard on yourself.
Yeah,
When you're like,
that
oh
pressure.
man, yeah, like so much pressure on yourself. But I don't even think about it like that. I just think about it, like this is just who I am. This is what I have to do. This is how I was born. This is the opportunity I've been given. So I got to make the most out of it. And then through that self-talk, I like make sure to really like continue on with whatever I have to do. And then that's how I just, that's how they say, you thug it out.
Yeah, you
just
gotta
make
do what
it,
you gotta
yeah, you just make it happen.
Yeah.
And like that's how I've been doing it the whole time, and that's how I'm gonna continue to do it until eventually maybe you find like a different purpose. But that's been like my main purpose, to really like make sure that all my ancestors' hard work has been worth it, and all my hard work, is worth it for myself as well.
So so you use your reasoning. So
Yeah.
like, as opposed to where you come from, the amount of work and effort that puts you in the position where you are today. At the same time, you don't want to disrespect your past.
Right.
But would you say that the pressure that you have,
Yeah.
could that be something that holds you back?
It could be, but the thing is, right, at the same time, you're also learning how to deal with pressure. And I forgot who said this, but someone said this. They were like, oh, you can tell how successful a person is going to be by how much pressure they can handle. And if you put yourself in, like, it's similar to what he was saying, right? Like, always trying to, like, tackle the hardest thing first, like, by putting, like, you're almost putting, like, so much pressure on you, like, oh, I'm going to solve the hardest problem first, right? Like, that's pretty, like, a good amount of pressure, right? So things like that. But if you're able to do that, then there's no telling what else you can do. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I see where you're going.
So it's like, if you that's what I'm saying. Like, if you can handle this amount of pressure at the beginning, then there's a lot that you can accomplish and you can continue on. So I wouldn't say like that's the case.
One thing I did find
Right.
out, like that's actually interesting between us three, is that we all have immigrant parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel
That's
like
a
that
fact.
plays a big factor as well.
Definitely.
yeah.
We're all first generation.
Yeah,
First generation,
All,
that's
all
a
of our
fact.
parents come from like pretty difficult environments. Like
I'm
in my
guessing-
case, it was communist Poland.
Yeah.
Like they didn't have anything; they had to work for everything.
Right,
And I
right.
feel like that's where my dad gets his work ethic from.
the
So
work ethic.
I'm guessing
That's
we all
exactly
came,
it.
our folks all probably came in from the 80s to like the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Right?
that's what it was
Yeah.
for me. It was 90s.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah,
fact.
I
That's a
feel like
fact.
that. I think that plays a big role too. That could play a role in the biological part, maybe.
Definitely. Because
Yeah.
my folks came from poverty China.
Could be also nurtured
Yeah.
though, right? The way that you were raised from them, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's also what I've noticed a lot about the difference between immigrants and Americans. The way I knew, let's look at the black community,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So, the part of Brownsville I grew up with, a lot of Jamaicans and Haitians,
Oh yes.
right? And I could vibe with Jamaicans, Haitians who are first generation, second generation, but I couldn't vibe with the Americans.
Interesting.
Like the Americans, they just don't get it. They don't have that sense of work ethic because when you come from nothing, this is a lot. Like even living in the hood of America is better than living in regular fucking bumfuck Haiti. You know, no
Yeah.
offense to Haiti, but relative speaking, America's a very first world country, and a lot of people who were born here, especially like later on in generation, like past what I've noticed past their generation, the level of entitlement, the level of laziness, just
Like
skyrockets.
ungratefulness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like they assume like, no offense, like fucking white people who's been in this country like past 4 generations, they just assume they entitled to everything.
They didn't have to go
Mhm.
through the struggles. You
Yeah.
know, they didn't
Yeah,
have to
the
struggle.
struggles.
You know, so that's why they don't really realize like, not only did they not have to do it, they probably don't have to ever in most people's situations, right?
Yeah,
Because a lot of people are set off, so they don't have to think about these things, and they don't realize that not everybody's coming from the same background.
yeah,
you know?
especially in the closed environment. One is the environment as well. They always in a closed environment where it's essentially a bubble.
Yeah, in fact, I don't even think I have a single person close to me that's not a first generation, or at least like from an immigrant parent.
Right.
I actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think I have anyone close to me that's not in that situation.
There's an unspoken understanding.
Yeah, I do agree.
It's like the gym. Like when you see other people who actually work out, there's an unspoken understanding that you guys just get it. Like you guys
Yeah.
been through that level of experience. You guys been through a level of bullshit, and you guys just understand each other at a fundamental level. As opposed to people who just don't. You know how you talk to someone, they just don't get it. They don't get the amount of work ethic, the amount of work you put in, the hours you have to put in, the
Yeah.
fucking difficulties you have to go in, even just the biases that you have to go in
Right.
just to get to where you are, and they don't get it, and that's probably why they're not going to be where they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Struggle is a big factor.
I think for me it's the same thing. Like my race always played a big factor of everything. You know, when it comes to work, dating, even school, right?
Yeah.
Even going to the Air Force. Like the first thing the recruiter taught me is about some other Asian guy who milked the military.
Who milked?
Milk the military? How do you milk 'em?
What do you mean milked?
Unless you can't say it. But
No, I can say it.
Okay.
No, milking the military. I mean like using the military for all its benefits. That's
Oh,
what
okay,
I mean by it.
oh,
I mean, isn't that a
I
good?
see,
I
I
mean,
see,
you know,
I
they
see. It's a good
offer
thing.
them, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant that like in like
No,
a bad
not,
way.
Not that.
Oh,
so like
okay.
some other guy. I also saw the video of him. He went to I think it was the Marines. No, the Navy. He joined the Navy. Became a Navy SEAL.
Mm.
Became an astronaut, and then from then on, became a doctor. Or so has some kind of PhD. He got some kind of doctorate. I believe
Everything.
it's a third doctor, and he's Asian, right? And that's the first thing the recruiter brought up to me. I'm like, bro, really? I'm like, sure, yeah, I've heard about him. I have a similar mindset, but it doesn't mean like I'm paired in the same group as him, right? There are some biases when people look at you. For example, I really realized this when I went to school in Buffalo. Going to London, where it's not as diverse as New York City.
Yeah.
People will judge you based on the most superficial things, right? Like, for example, you can go to a store dressed in sweatpants and a baggy T-shirt, versus you go to a store dressed in a suit and tie. Doesn't matter what kind of store you go, they will
Yeah.
look at you differently. They will treat you differently.
Interesting.
The way you look, the way you carry yourself, even the phrases you talk, the slangs you use, they will look at you and judge you this different way. And that's something that not a lot of people will understand. The arbitrary things, your gender, your race, level of attractiveness, your height.
Everything. First impressions are everything.
First impression.
Yeah.
But do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
It depends on how you take it.
On who? On who?
Like for
Or
me,
yourself.
for
Oh.
how you take it as an individual. Like for me, like I'm a short Asian man, right? I'm gonna be frank. I'm
Yeah.
5'7", 155, and I'm Asian, right?
Yeah.
So I can take that as a bad thing, like, oh, you know, I wish I could be this or that, but no, I am
Yeah.
who I am, and I fucking love who I am, right?
Right.
So that could be why, like, for example, when I live in the hood, you know, I'm the only Asian guy. I'm the white sheep in the field, black sheep,
Yeah.
right? Like, and so,
Especially in Brownsville, man.
yeah, there's more Asian people now. Old people, but,
Really?
you know, there's more Asian people now. We have a bike lane.
Nice.
It's getting
Wow.
gentrified soon. You can tell it's getting gentrified. Like maybe in like 10 years it'll be no longer Brownsville. It'll probably be the Harlem today. But
Wow.
all of that bullshit that I went through, that made me who I am. Like the trauma, the bullshit, it's definitely made me funnier.
Yeah.
It's made me more accepting of who I am. I think I've never been in a situation where I've been fully comfortable in my own skin until I was 19 years old. My first time in K-Town, when I look around, I'm like, holy shit, I fit in. For the first time, I'm not getting weird looks just for having squinty eyes. I swear to God, this one time I was sitting on the bench talking to someone on the phone, and this older black gentleman with a cane, he was caning around, and he looked at me, he was like I'm an exotic peacock. I looked at him like, yeah, that's why I moved out of Brownsville. Like just moments like those, like you don't want to be noticed, you don't want to be the center of attention, but you just get it just for
Yeah.
existing.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's probably the same thing as black people getting pulled over for bullshit reasons. Right? It's
Right,
just an
right.
annoying encumbrance that you have to deal with.
Yeah.
Damn. I mean, it's probably just like those stereotypes of people,
Oh yeah.
like of how people are perceived, right, and how someone thinks of
Mm-hmm.
them as to like just because of like who they are and their identity, but they may be completely wrong. That's why it's never good to like judge someone so quickly, or even like just. I always have that mindset where, you know, I always like to just think of everybody like almost like neutral and not make any assumptions about anybody, because you'll be surprised. You know, how they say appearances can be deceiving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, you know,
But the thing is,
never do
it's-
it.
I think it's so human to judge people.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like human nature. Yeah, you just always like you like in the first 5 seconds you always like, oh, like I have like a sort of idea of how this person may be.
Yeah.
But that can never be true. So never always go based off that. You know, I at least like try to like not go based off that. you
I
know?
judge people upon their mindset.
Yeah.
Like I don't
for
judge
the
people about how they
mindset.
look. I don't really care because for me it doesn't matter. But after having a 5-minute conversation, I can exactly tell how like if I want you within my inner circle or not. Right? Based on the way you think, based on the way you talk, even the things that your principles in life. Right? For example, I can't really vibe with people under 25. Even though I'm 21, I can't do that. Just because the mindset is so
The
different.
mindset is different, right?
It's like,
Yeah.
dude, like you want to go party every week, every Friday. You don't have the money to do that, but you're still doing it just to escape
Right,
your reality.
right,
Like I
yeah.
get it. Once in a while, I also have that need to go out to party,
Yeah.
right? But I don't have that. I have the level of self control to tell myself like, oh look, I need to do what I gotta do. I have a goal in mind. I want to be a certain position in your life. I know I have to make sacrifices for that. You're not willing to make the sacrifices, and that's okay. Right, we're just not going to spend an absurd amount of time together. You can respectfully do what you got to do. I'm going to do what I got to do.
Right.
Right, may it be. I think a lot of things. I cut off a lot of people because they were smoking pot like every single day. I think that's the biggest red flag for anybody. If you smoke pot every single day, you have something. There's something wrong with you.
I feel like it's a mature mindset that once you have gone through so much experience, like as a young, just in your earlier years, you have gone through so much, you just mature at a quicker rate, and it feels like you don't have that need anymore to go party. Because I feel like that too. Because I feel like for me, when I was like young, like I was exposed to a lot of different things, like, you know, like negative things, like street things, basically,
Yeah.
right? And like these things like really changed my outlook on life, and I was like, oh, like, you know, maybe while other people, like, when they get older, they might think these things are cool. But since I already experienced these things at a younger age, we can be the same age, but we have two different perspectives on the same thing, you know? And I'm like, oh, you know, I don't want to get into that. Like, say, like, something like, I don't like partying, right? You're
Yeah.
using partying, right? Like, I've been through parties, like, when I was, like, 15, 16, 17, and when I was young, like, young, right? People would say, like, oh, you look young, but, like, I had a fake ID or whatever. You know, I just knew people. I just go in, like, right?
Yeah.
And I always had older friends, so they will always vouch for me
I
too.
think that's another thing. You're having older friends.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was 15, most of my friends were like 40 minimum.
40.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Who was you hanging out with?
I was an iron worker.
Oh.
So
that
like
makes sense.
everybody was like 30, 40, 50.
Okay.
And I would be the one who was running around getting permits and everything. What if I go to
Right.
the Department of Education, whichever department I go, the DOE, DOB, get permits, everybody was just older than me.
Yeah.
Like so much more. And I was just some kid.
Right,
So just
right.
having like basic conversations, the way they talk, like you can tell like
Yeah.
they come from an education background and they're smart people. They're not stupid people. That's the thing. Like education does not necessarily equate to intellect.
Yeah.
But education could be a good way to education could be a good way
Yeah.
to like filter if people have intellect or not. But I think education filters people with consistency. Where you see people who consistently working for a job for 20 years and just the way they think,
Yeah.
even the way they talk in a very political sense,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where they're saying things in a, I like to say, lawyery way,
Mhm.
right? Where they are ambiguous with everything.
I do think school, like, I did notice, like, school doesn't force you saying the right thing.
Right.
Because there's no pressure to.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are pressured to say the right thing in situations, not what they genuinely feel. Because I don't want to say it's exactly only because of school, but I think school does enforce that.
But the thing is, I think that's counterproductive as a society.
Oh, 100%.
That's why I have this podcast. That's why I say the disclaimer in the beginning. I want people to have an open mind, say
To
what
speak
they
their
want.
mind, right?
Speak
Like,
Come on.
who,
Talk
like,
the shit.
also think of it this way, like, who gauges what's right?
Right.
It's
Yeah,
all
I always
opinions.
think
Yeah.
of that.
like,
I
who
always
says
think of
what's
that.
right? Like, who's to determine what's right?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So, like, oh, you're not saying the right thing. Says who?
Says
like,
who?
why am I not saying
Who,
the
the
right thing?
government?
Yeah, exactly.
And who
Who
says
told me
they're
that?
right?
Exactly. Like, that's
You
the
know,
thing.
The way I conceptualize it is like laws, right? Who made the laws? People. Who are people? People are us. Are we all perfect beings? No.
I forgot. Yeah.
Laws changes every day. Lobbying, fucking zoning, bribing, all that shit that goes on politically speaking. It's all just based on what someone thinks is right or wrong. But what
Right.
defines your right or wrong is correct in my universe. That's what's right
Yeah,
and wrong.
that's another thing. Like, right or wrong is completely subjective most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can be right, but if you were in my shoes, you might think it's wrong.
Yeah,
Like, that could be a thing too, you know?
that's perfectly normal.
Yeah,
But-
because it's all subjective.
But it's gotten to the point where the social justice warriors and the Karen snowflakes make it where like you have to appease everybody. Can't offend nobody anymore.
Because it's like they're not doing anything themselves to better themselves. Like, what are they doing? Like, think about it. They're just trying to be right, but it's like, you know, like they're not. If they actually did something on their own, they'd be quiet and they'd be on the side. They're not doing anything to like better themselves. You know, maybe they don't even have a job. Like, we don't know.
Yeah, it's
But
interesting.
like you know, think about it. Do you really think it's productive to sit on Twitter and just bash people all day? Go start a business or something, man. Like,
yeah.
you know, like it's gonna be better. And in fact, when they start that business, they're probably gonna think differently too from where they used to. The thing is, like, it's so easy to feel like you're right when you're like that. It's so easy to feel like you're right. You know, it's like you can't be racist. Yeah, no shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't be racist. Yeah,
Right.
no shit.
But that's
So-
not how the real
so
world
yeah,
works.
but like you say all this stuff, and then you start to like govern people like they mean something completely different, but you're like, oh, but like this is racist, right? It's like you feel like you're saying something that you feel like you're right, and you're enforcing that on somebody, and you feel like you're being productive. It's like a
It's a
cheap way
bubble.
of being productive. I
think
guess that's the way I see it.
It's the bubble. They live in a bubble where, in their eyes, in their views, in their perspective, everything is too idealistic.
Yeah.
Right.
So like, yeah, in the ideal world, there is no war, there is no racism, there is no negative things.
Yeah.
But without the good, there is no bad. Without the bad, there is no good.
Yeah.
It's a balance of both things.
If there was no such thing as bad, then they wouldn't be doing what they're doing.
Yeah. If there's
Right.
no bad, you wouldn't have a relative perspective for good,
Right, exactly.
right?
There's
Without
no
war,
bad, there's no good.
without war, there's no peace. Without peace, there's no war.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think people don't understand that. Okay, perhaps maybe the thought process of what I have is based on my perspective. It is not the reality of the world, right? We all like to
Exactly.
think we're the main characters of our universe,
Right.
but that's not the main universe.
Yeah.
Like I see everybody's like a book, right? You're your book, I'm my book, he's his book. All different chapters, all different. You read it, it's a different story, right? Granted, we might have some chapters that are very similar,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, we're all different peoples. Right?
Exactly.
I could never be fully. I forgot what empathetic or sympathetic. I keep forgetting the differences. I can never be fully in your shoes, understand exactly everything you've been through because I am not you.
Right.
Right. I don't have like whatever experiences you go to. I don't have the upbringing that you went to. I don't have the same eyes as you, pun intended. Like, vice versa too. Like you wouldn't, you could never understand me in the full complexity of things because you've never been through the bullshit I've been through. Because we're just different peoples, and people don't understand that's okay. Like what, I remember I was talking to the advisor about this when I was still going to Buffalo. It's weird. He's surprised that like a student called because most people have their parents doing all the work for them.
Huh.
Yeah, this is
Wow.
most people that go to Buffalo are suburban kids, middle class, so their parents will do everything for them.
No, that's just sad.
That's what I'm saying. I was
Yeah.
surprised. Are you sure? I'm like, that's.
Nah.
I thought I was normal. Like that's
Yeah.
weird.
How the fuck?
And then we somehow had a 3-hour conversation about where the world is heading. And the one thing that he said that really stuck with me is that people forget how to compromise. Everybody's just super headstrong. Like it doesn't matter like politically speaking, in the work environment, in the relationship dynamic.
Yeah.
People just like either my way or the highway, and it's always a fighting thing. Like why do we gotta fight? Right? There's no point. Fighting is actually more counterproductive. Yeah, fight for your ideas. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but I'm saying you should learn how to compromise. Let's say, for example, 3 of us, right? We all want to work on something together. We all have our own ideas. We all believe our ideas is the best in our own perspectives, right?
Yeah.
But who's to say that's the best for the business, right? Who knows? Like maybe you're very headstrong about your idea, and that might be the thing that holds us back, right? Same thing for me. Maybe maybe I think my idea is like the best idea we can ever do, but maybe that's counterproductive.
Maybe, but then don't you think maybe you just gotta trust your own gut too?
You do.
Because it's like, oh, like maybe you just have a sort of feeling that everyone disagrees with you, but you really think like, oh, this is going to like, this is going to be like a successful idea. Like nobody believes you at the moment, but if you follow along and just follow along with me, like things are gonna turn out good.
I think it's
You don't think
important.
that?
Yeah, I think that's important. I think to like jump on what you're saying, I feel like that's good if the people who disagree don't like put it down. I think that's the important part. When you say like my way to highway type of situation,
Right.
I think it's very important that what Kevin said, like if you're the only one who thinks that it's gonna work, like that is keep going through it. Like don't just say no because the other guys are saying no. Like keep doing it.
Yeah.
But I also think from the perspective of the other guys, they shouldn't bash this one guy. Like has to be a reason why he's thinking this way, right? So I think it's important that it is not the my way or the highway situation, but rather like actually speak and try to get insight on why this guy thinks it's the case.
Right.
And even if you still disagree, like like obviously, just communicating. There probably will be something you guys could get as a compromise.
Yeah, for example, like when you say an opposing opinion, I'm not offended by it.
Right.
I actually actively encourage it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because like in moments of opposition, I learn the most.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I'm around yes men, I'm like, why the fuck would I be around yes men?
Yeah.
Right? I want to be around like smart men, yeah. But if I'm wrong, tell me I'm fucking wrong.
Right. Yeah,
And be
exactly.
honest about it.
You should,
Like,
yeah,
tell me
be straight
straight
up. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that's very important.
And that's what we're losing. Like I think in the midst of social media, that's what we're losing. Like people are playing this weird game where it's like, how do I say this?
They're avoiding conflict. They just want to be comfortable.
Or they're just going along with it.
Yeah.
Something
yeah,
like
they're
that.
just comfortable. Like
Right.
they're just sitting in comfort for too long.
Yeah, and that demotivates me to like work with my generation.
Yeah, or they're like, I see it like also like they're letting other people make decisions about their life, and they don't have like their own like ideas and perspectives on this. Like maybe because they're like say like someone they look up to thinks of this certain way, then they're gonna just automatically think, okay, yeah, this is the correct way. Let me just think like that too. You see what I mean? And they don't have like their own like perspective or ideas on that topic, and I feel like that's what like social media does. Like it almost like I guess you can say it like
Puts you in the bubble.
yeah, right. It puts you in a bubble, but also like, how do I say it? Like, it just like blinds you and it doesn't let you think for yourself.
Yeah.
And you just think like whatever you see is probably like true, so you just go along with it. When in reality, you just put your head down, and just assume it's good. When in reality, it's not. Like you didn't even put thought into it. Like, oh, is this actually do I agree with this? Like, where's your own perspective, your own like thought into this, And that's what like social media has created a problem there.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So But hey, guys, yo, that guy came through in a
Okay,
minute ago. So I
All
don't
right, cool. Well, that's the end of
Yeah.
episode 4.
Four,
Oh,
yes. It's
yeah.
four. I'm pretty sure it's
So
four.
4.
Yeah, I can get into this for more hours.
Oh yeah, of course, man.
Maybe one day you get in the studio.
Yo, that would be
Oh,
fire.
I will. Probably
You
not.
will.
Maybe not in New York, but I will.
Somewhere.
I don't know where I'll be in the next 6 years.
Who knows?
Yeah.
All I know is you'll have your own and you could be here for 9 hours.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh definitely.
Hell yeah.
Well, that's the end of this episode. Thank you guys for watching or listening, whichever you're on YouTube or Spotify, as this podcast is currently on.
Right.
For
And-
SoundCloud.
Or SoundCloud.
For SoundCloud.
I have it on SoundCloud as well for those SoundCloud rappers.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, I'll leave you. You want me to leave that information down in the description?
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Yeah, you
Sure.
can speak it out or whatever like social medias you want on the podcast. I'll link it down below.
I mean, maybe in a future podcast because I'll be starting like a YouTube and everything later on. Because at
Yeah.
the moment it's just like a personal Instagram.
Go right
But
ahead.
later on.
But yeah, all right, guys. We'll see you next time. Cheers.